minutes late, and you guys just, I'm sure every one of you just bolted after the 5-minute mark. There's nobody, maybe Jacques, he probably stuck around. He's the rule follower. None of you other guys lasted more than 4 minutes, probably. All right, what do you got? What are the hot topics that need to be discussed?
What's up, Brian here? Michael Van Buren,
Yeah.
looks like he has maybe a hand injury. Is he going to miss some time with that, and if so, how much?
No, he got the index finger jammed on his right hand. He'll be throwing tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, we had an X-ray, MRI, no damage. He was just sore, so we've shut him down a little bit, but he'll be back. He did light throwing. He'll do a throwing program in the afternoon today, and then we'll have him back out tomorrow.
And then Witt not practicing yesterday, what's the reason?
Yeah, load management for Witt, yeah.
Harold too, or what was his situation?
No, he had a personal day. He had some things he had to take care of, but he was back out there today.
Coach, being the starting quarterback at LSU, always a big gig, a lot of responsibility, pressure. What about now with all the social media platforms, and are they more like a pro quarterback now because of the fact they're being compensated? And how does Garrett handle all those things?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jacques. I mean, I think, part of my job is to help them manage the distractions that come along with, not only being at a premier program like LSU, but now add the revenue share piece and, hey, you're getting paid and all these things. And really all they can control are the controllables, right? All that other talk that's out there, they can't control any of that. What they can do is really do a great job with their attitude, their work ethic, sticking to a process, and then, handling it as it comes, right? But we have to do a really good job of making sure that our guys don't get distracted by the noise, because it's a lot of noise. And if you're paralyzed by that noise, you won't do it here and you won't do it in the NFL. And we've seen that we've done a pretty good job with the quarterbacks here, that they have transitioned well to the NFL. So we'll continue to, lean on our process that we have that we think prepares our guys to handle those tough situations.
Coach, over here, can you talk a little bit about the defense, Brian? Everybody's been raving about what they brought, advantages of playing more people, and if you think you've got aggressive playmakers that are going to bring in more TFL sacks and takeaways.
Well, that all sounds good. We haven't played a game yet. We've only gone against each other, but I certainly love the depth, right, that we really haven't had over the first 3 years. We're able to rotate guys in competitive situations, whether it's at the edge, defensive tackle, linebacker, safety, and corner. Those were positions that we were just trying to get 11 out there. And you can't really get a competitive environment when you're so thin there. And, through the roster management and development, both in terms of guys developing in the program and the portal, has put us in a much better position where we can start to see that depth is paying off in practice.
Coach, with Tyree Adams, what made him ready to take this pretty big mantle of, I guess, trying to take Will Campbell's position, and how has he sort of handled that?
Well, we recruited what we thought was a talented player. We recruited somebody that we felt, fit our culture. So, you start with recruiting the right guys, and then they develop naturally within your program. And then when it's time to step in there, they've got to be prepared. So he was a 2-all last year and prepared himself very well. Like, he came to practice, prepared himself, was locked in, and essentially was waiting for his opportunity. And when his opportunity arose, and in particular in the bowl game, he played really well. I think it's everything that I just said. His consistent approach, coming to this building every day, focused on the details necessary to be a starting tackle. So I think he had the talent, he had the right traits coming in. He did a really good job of developing and being consistent, which has allowed him now to step in and be our starting left tackle.
Brian, kind of a big picture question about team cohesion and unity. You know, it's counterintuitive to me that you guys brought in so many pieces, but all fall camp, they've talked about the closeness of this team, right? So how are you all able to achieve that? Did you do anything differently this year? Is it just a credit to the guys? Or like, what are you seeing from that perspective with so many new additions to this team?
I think the best analogy I can give you is that when your culture is established in the program, and established in the sense that when you bring in new players, they adapt to your program, not the other way around. And we weren't at that point in our program where we had everybody on board rowing in the right direction. So when these guys came in, it was just like, this is the way they do it. I better get on board or I'm not going to be part of what they do. So I think it starts with having the right locker room and knowing when you can go in and bring in people from the outside into your locker room. When your locker room is right and the standards are set and everybody's held to the same level of accountability, then it's easier to do that and have them really mesh with the entire group.
Hey, Brian, we got to see Karis Kern on the right side at tackle yesterday. Maybe just a thought on what you all are still trying to achieve with that offensive line with some of the switches this close to the game.
Well, I think, if I could circle back, Tyree is going to be our starting left tackle. I think there's still a battle between Paul and Cohen Eccles, for one of the guard positions. Justin has nailed down one of the guard positions. Braylon has nailed down the center, excuse me, the center position. And I think there's still a battle for that next tackle position, which would be the right tackle. So we moved Karius over there to compete with Weston, to see who's our best. And maybe it's both of them, Matt, more than anything else. We wanted to see that maybe it's a combination or maybe it's one or the other. There wasn't enough competition there. We feel like Ori's coming along, but he wasn't there yet, so we wanted to create a little bit more competition at that right tackle position. Does that make sense? Excuse me.
Yeah, Coach, just kind of being 3 or 4 weeks into fall camp right now, just is there anything that you've picked up on this team that maybe you wanted to see coming in that you have seen, or anything that maybe you wanted to see you haven't seen, anything that's just kind of stood out to you that maybe you were expecting coming into fall that you have seen or haven't seen?
Well, I've been really pleased on the things that you guys don't really pay attention to, and not in a disrespectful manner, but their details, their habits, how they come to the building, how they use nutrition the right way, recover. All those things are really good signs that we have a group that's mature and understands how to take care of themselves and prepare themselves for the season. I think the things that probably stood out, or the things that stand out to you, is the depth that we now have at wide receiver. I think we're seeing even more depth on the defensive side of the ball, in the back end of our defense. It is so competitive right now back there. And we really like the development of our end play. And those are all like tangible signs. The other ones you don't see unless you're here every day. But for you guys, the tangible signs would be kind of what we talked about just a few minutes ago. And that's the depth of this team and the ability to push each other and keep that competitive edge in every single practice.
Coach, I think there was a feeling last year when Chris Hilton wasn't in the lineup, you didn't have a guy to stretch the field.
I think that's true. I think that's true.
So now with him back, and then Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, are these guys too that can do that? And how do you feel overall about stretching the field?
I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think we're going to be able to push the ball down the field. And it's what you just mentioned. It's not only Chris, it's Barry and it's Aaron. Jelani Watkins is playing really well. I could give you like 4 or 5 guys that can definitely get down the field for us and do some damage. And then you got guys that are really solid, and Kyle Parker does everything right. He helps us in so many areas. Xavion, He's a multi-position guy for us. He knows all the positions. He's just so smart. And I'm sure you can't not talk about Trey'Dez Green too, pushing down the field, because if he's covered, he's not covered at any time. So yeah, I would say that we're pretty excited about that opportunity.
Just real quick, you didn't mention DJ Chester on the offensive line. Is he still in the mix for a
Yes,
starting job?
in some ways it's a disservice to him because we got him playing center, guard. He's playing a little bit of right tackle. He's competing for a starting position as well. But we can't put them all out there. So somebody's going to have to be in a rotational position, whether it's Paul or Cohen or DJ, Weston or Carius. Those are the guys that are all going to eventually play. I don't think you're just going to see 5 guys trotting out there every single play. I think you're going to see some other guys definitely getting in the game as well.
And then what has Amon done for special teams that you've noticed this preseason, and what do you feel like you have in your return game with Berrien and Xavier and some of these other guys?
I think Amon is very bright. I think he breaks special teams down to its fundamental form. Many coordinators that I've had at the position, were much more unit-driven, meaning, you send your 11 guys out on punt and then you work on punt. Or you send your 11 guys out on kickoff return and all you do is kickoff return. We're much more in pods, where we're working the right up back and the left up back, or we're just working the wall, or we're just working the gunners on techniques. And it's really resonated with our players in the sense that they really feel like they're being coached from a technical standpoint, and then bring the unit in and let them execute together as 1/11th. So in answering your question, I think he's done an incredibly great job of utilizing the entire coaching staff. So everybody's involved, the entire coaching staff's involved, and really breaking it down to its details. Then plug in some playmakers, right? Berrien or Aaron and, obviously Ramos and Aaron Burrell. They all become now better because we're so much more technically sound in all those areas. Good question. You get the good question star of the day.
Way to go, Wilson. Do you think you're going to turn them loose a little bit more in the return game?
Turn them loose.
Yeah, Berrien and Aaron and all those.
I'm not sure what that means. I mean, you punt it to us, we want to return that son of a gun every single time. I will tell you that we are working diligently with the knowledge that we have game breakers. We know that they can flip the field. Look, and this isn't to bash anybody, right? But you watch us play, we very rarely, other than a couple of returns, which we had, we didn't flip the field with our feet. In other words, we didn't flip the field very often with the punt game. We need to flip the field and put the pressure on offenses. And we didn't do a very good job of that last year. So as much as it is about returns, we got to flip the field too. And then let our defense get the ball back for our offense on a short field. Those are some of the things we're really focused on.
We're going to talk to Austin later this week, I guess.
Yes,
Just
I
now
think
that-
Thursday.
Now that you have them in place, I guess, Sam and Kelvin and everyone, Jeff, is there a weight off of your shoulders? How are you navigating that, I guess, now that you're kind of up and running?
Well, it's an interesting question, and a good question, because for 34 years, I've effectively signed the checks, the scholarship checks, been primary in the roster, in putting together a roster. It's been such a centralized operation for my entire career, right? It all revolved around kind of what my thoughts were and my decisions. I've abdicated some of that to a front office, if you will. Now, I don't want to paint the picture that I'm not involved in those decisions, but we've hired a great GM and a front office staff that can handle a lot of that stuff for me, which allows me to stay focused on our players, because there's no way I could be negotiating contracts and working towards some of the creative ways through revenue sharing on a day-to-day basis. There's just not enough time to do it. So I can tell you that I'm in a new territory. I've adapted to it, I think, quite well, and I've empowered the guys that are really good at that stuff to go do their job, and they're doing a great job.
Did you ever think college football would get to a point where you'd be working for and with a GM like you are with Austin Thomas?
No, it's kind of one of the reasons why I never went to the NFL. If quite honest with you, I just felt like with all my years, it was going to be hard for me to give that piece up. But it's been a lot easier because I like who I'm working with. They love LSU. They're committed to what they're doing. They're really good at what they do. So it's made that kind of transition a lot easier, and I probably should have taken some of those NFL jobs that were offered years ago. No, I'm kidding.
Coach, is there competition with Chadwick and Aaron Burrell at punter? Secondly, Holder, sometimes you have some competition there. And finally, did you move the scrimmage Saturdays 7:30 to simulate their time?
There's no competition at the punting position, but we are really pleased with Aaron Burrell's progress. Chadwick has been really good all camp. And it goes to what I said earlier about flipping the field. We think he's going to be able to do that for us. But Aaron's done a really good job in that position. Holder, Grant's the holder right now, but we do have Colin Hurley working at it and Bauer Sharp who did it as well. So we have three guys that we're working and getting reps to on a regular basis. We began last Saturday with our scrimmage at 7:30 to duplicate the night game, and we'll do that again this Saturday as well. Good? All right, thank you.